I love schnitzel. I had never had it
Oh my
before.
gosh. It's so
And
good.
oh man, and the different sauces and gravies. Oh, yum. I haven't had dinner tonight, so I'm like, that sounds so good.
Welcome to Nerdlandia.
Welcome to Nerdlandia, where we find new hobbies and experiences and swan dive right into them. I'm your host, Emily Case Buskirk, and for me, it's more like a belly flop. Today's episode is a little different. For those listening in real time, we are smack dab in the middle of a soul-crushing winter, and in this conversation, I try to stave off my seasonal blues by living vicariously through a friend's adventures in Germany. Molly moved abroad 6 months ago with her husband Mike and their cat Max. She shares her experiences so far and what it's been like adjusting to a different culture. Incidentally, I've also been to Germany before, so it was fun to reminisce while mentally planning out a trip to go visit her, hopefully soon. Enjoy. Molly, thank you so much for joining us, calling in from Germany. So thank you so much for that dedication.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I am super excited too. Very important question. How is Max, your cat, doing?
Max is perfect. He has been like sneezing, and I think there's some new allergens in Germany that's a little weird, but nothing concerning. I feel like that's the only thing that has affected Max in this whole move because he was so chill. He was in his carrier whenever we traveled here. There was a lot of delays and stuff, so he ended up being in the carrier for like almost 24 hours straight because like whenever we landed we couldn't get into our hotel, and it was just kind of a mess, and he was so chill. I was so proud of him. During the flight, just a couple times he got a little mad if there was turbulence and he would start scratching at his carrier, but for the most part I'd just go, "Hey Max, you okay?" And he'd go, "Meow." Like, all right, just making sure.
Oh my gosh.
He was so good. He is so good.
That's so great to hear. My cat has also been on a plane, and it's kind of a nerve-wracking experience. I couldn't imagine having to like fly over an ocean with my cat.
I was terrified that something was going to go wrong. Like, we had to have a few different types of paperwork, nothing too crazy, because luckily in Germany, they don't have a quarantine period. Some countries, as soon as you arrive, your cat, I guess, or your dog has to be quarantined, just because they control like things like rabies and stuff, so much better than we do in America. But it went really smoothly. We had melatonin, which we only really gave him once because he was just pretty relaxed. And we found like a family restroom and just let him explore. And he
Wow.
was really good. He was super chill. He's a great traveler.
He took it like a champ.
He did. I think in Max's mind, I think he's like, as long as I'm with my parents, he really does trust us a lot. He's very patient with us.
Good deal. Did you think that you would ever live in Germany? And can you provide us some backstory on everything?
Yeah. So how we ended up here, my husband Mike is in the Air Force band. He's a drummer, and we were stationed for 5 years in California at Travis Air Force Base. And we got orders to move to Germany. We always wanted to eventually end up here. So Mike had it on his list of like top 3 places that we wanted to go. Like a week before he found out that we were coming here, he asked his supervisor, "Hey, how is the overseas assignments looking? Like, do you think I'll end up getting moved soon?" And they were like, "No, it looks like everything's at a standstill. Like, you should be good for a year or two." And then the next week, I'm sitting at home with Max, of course, and Mike's calling me from work. And it's like, I kind of knew. He does call me from work, but not often. But I was like, oh my God, we're going to Germany. And there was just like a wave of emotions. Like, I'm excited, but also I'm terrified, and there's so much to do. And it was like extremely overwhelming. But we got through it. So yeah, now I live in Germany. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such a big moment to process when that moment that you get that news.
It was. I mean, you're thinking about all the very little things, like, oh, I'm going to have to get adapters for all of my electronics. It's not something you need to be thinking of like in that moment, but your mind's just racing. You're like, and also like I have to learn how to drive in a different country. And also, and you're just thinking of every little and big thing and every possibility. But then that wears off, and then you're just like, okay, let's get the things done that need to get done. So many times we said, I just can't wait till we're there and like drinking a beer together and we're in Germany and we did it. And now we've lived here for almost 6 months.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah, just like where you're taking things one moment at a time instead of trying to prepare for all of these things you don't even know about yet.
yeah, and that is like one of the hardest things for me to do as a pretty anxious person.
Oh, totally
But
agree.
it was definitely a growing experience for me because there were just certain things like, I don't know, a lot of paperwork, and it's like, oh, you can only do that 90 days before you leave. So you can worry about it all you want, but you can't do anything about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so many logistical things to deal with. But I bet that first beer you had was just like amazing.
It was, yeah. The first beer and then maybe like three, I'm going to be honest.
And I know that you were learning some German, so how has that been going?
Yeah, that's going well. And I studied like I guess 2 semesters of German in college. And Mike took a couple years in high school. So we had a foundation, but I was very rusty. So I was just kind of doing Duolingo lessons. We made German friends, and that has been the absolute most helpful thing because I feel like the best way if you're able to learn a language is just to get in with people that speak it, and talk. Even if
Totally.
you say things wrong, even I've also made the joke many times like moving to a new country, you're going to do things that make you look silly quite often and you just have to embrace it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like that's just the reality. So it's like even if you say something that's completely wrong, most people I haven't met anyone that wasn't like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll correct you." And but people aren't going to make fun of you or anything. So
Yes, and in my experience, people are super gracious when you just try to talk in a language that's not English. When I like traveled to Mexico, I was in high school and I had taken like maybe a year of Spanish or something, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk in Spanish, and I was like trying to just do small talk with this like old dude who was like just sitting there. I think he had like a little acoustic guitar and he's like strumming along, and I'm just like, "Cómo está ustedes?" And he's just like, "Bien, bien," and then he like kind of chuckles to himself like, ustedes. Like, I totally messed that up.
is that the wrong pronoun or?
I used the plural instead of the singular.
Oh,
Also, like, I don't know if you
yeah.
would have wanted the formal greeting, but that was how I was taught. If you're talking to a stranger, then you should be formal toward them. But
That's always hard to know because I do think in Germany, though, for the most part, they really like their rules and their structure. So it's like use the formal, and then if they say you don't have to use that anymore, then it's fine. But I always go with the formal if I'm just met someone or I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah, just like go with the rules until somebody tells you like it's okay to be a little more relaxed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you've had any weird language moments or anything.
I can't think of any like specific stories. I was trying to think of some, but I guess that's a good thing, right? That there aren't really any.
Yeah. You're doing super well.
Yeah. I mean, there's just been some funny, like, oh, I said that wrong, and just like a little chuckle moment, but nothing major. Most people do speak English. So it's like a lot of times they will start speaking English to me before I even attempt German. And I'm like, how did they know? Like, I exude like Americanism or
Yep.
something.
Like, oh yeah, she's totally American.
I don't know what it is, or if they like heard me talking to Mike, previously, like if we're in line at the grocery store, maybe they overhear us and then they know we speak English, but we haven't had any major mishaps
That's
yet.
good. That's
There's
good.
time. I'm sure we will.
For sure.
We're going to be here 2.5 more years. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I am wondering like what was the giveaway for them of like, oh yeah, she's definitely American. And then maybe you'll get to a point of living there where like that kind of like fades away and people like start to think that you're an actual German.
well, now it's like we celebrate if we go to the store and they just speak German to me and maybe they asked me, oh, here's a good example. One day I was in line and I was like in line 1 and it was a really long line, so they're like, I can help you on register 2, and I understood. I went over there and then I
Yes.
spoke, I said, tschüss. And I think I said, mit Karte bitte, play with my
Oh,
card. And then I like told Mike when he got home from work, I was like, I did not have an awkward experience at the grocery store. They said, I can help you on register two. And I knew what they meant. And like, I didn't make a fool of myself. It was amazing.
that is a huge win.
It is, yeah.
I love that. So, in the 6 months you've lived there, what have been any surprises or unexpected things about living there?
There's some little things that I just didn't realize, like how much it rains. And I actually really love it. Some people, it is completely understandable. Not everyone's weird like me and loves the rain. But it started raining, I think, late October, and it basically just didn't stop until maybe like a couple weeks ago. And then in there, there'd be like a couple nice days, but even on the days where it was kind of nice, it still might shower rain for like 10 minutes. Like it is always raining or snowing, I guess. It snowed twice. I had always heard about that, but I didn't really realize. I just thought people were being dramatic, like, oh, it rains all the time. No, it really does. I think probably because of that, in the fall, I was just walking around our yard and noticed a mushroom. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. There's mushrooms in my yard. And then I started looking and seeing all these other mushrooms, like probably 50 different kinds. And our yard isn't that big. And I know in California there's mushrooms and stuff, but I don't know if it's because it was so dry where we lived, or if I needed to get like up in the hills. But I've never seen anywhere that I've lived in my life this amount of just all these mushrooms. And that was a really fun surprise because then I like hyper fixated on that for a couple months.
Love it.
And yeah, I went mushroom hunting, taking pictures of mushrooms. I'm not into really like picking and eating them. I just like to look at them and I think they're pretty. So
Yeah, that's probably the safe thing to do.
yeah, if you're not sure, they say every mushroom is edible, but some are only edible once.
Totally. What's the German word for mushroom? Pop quiz.
Pilze, Pilze.
Nice. Nailed it. I went to Germany in May 1 year, and I had just kind of brought like normal vacation clothes in my head. And it was just rainy and cold the whole time. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I wasn't ready for that. Fortunately, I did have a rain jacket, and I just kind of ended up wearing that the entire time.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the weather does because it's only the end of January, but I feel like we've actually seen sun the last 2 days. But I know that winter's not over and I don't want it to be over.
Yeah, yeah.
I told Mike, I think yesterday, I said, I hope that we still see more rain and snow. And he's like, we will, Molly. It's the end of January. I'm like, oh, I don't want the sun yet. I'm weird. I need a little bit of sun, I think. Like, I have to take vitamin D supplements every day, and Mike does too, because the lack of sunlight, you just feel so tired and sometimes just like out of whack and just kind of off and brain foggy. So I probably need the sun as much as I don't want the sun.
I get that. Yeah, no, we've had like cloudy weather this entire past week, and I think we're all feeling that. But actually, I'm like looking out the window right now, and it's sunny, and it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow. So the trails are gonna be super packed, but I'm just gonna get out and do some biking.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I'm super excited for it. Have you had any other favorite discoveries of Germany so far?
I think one of the things that I've learned is, and I don't want to like make broad generalizations about people, but the Germans are kind of tough eggs to crack. Is that the term, right?
Yeah.
Tough eggs to crack. For example, we go to like a couple different pubs and cafes and we'll see some of the same people there, or even some of the people working. And it's not that they're not friendly. They just kind of keep to themselves and might like give you a little smile, but it's not like in the Midwest or even some places in California where somebody's just going to strike up a big conversation with you because you're sitting at the pub.
Yeah.
Like people tend to be quite reserved. But then the more they start seeing you and the more you'll say hi or just kind of have little conversations, then it's just like we have friends that are texting me, hey, are you home? Yeah. Oh, look outside. And they left me like a little piece of homemade cheesecake that they made or whatever. And like, yeah, it's amazing. I feel like once you're in with a group of German people, like you are really in. They are so, so nice and so helpful. And they also love, like, oh, that's our American friends. And one of our friends, he plays in like a band here, and he'll always say, especially for you from Kansas City, Molly and Mike.
Kansas City?
And the joke is he knows we're not from Kansas City, but that's like the joke now because that's a city that he knew in America.
I mean,
So,
from the perspective of Germany, he's pretty much in the ballpark.
I mean, I grew up a couple hours from Kansas City, so it's not a terrible guess, but
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of, like, I mean, we're both from small towns, so it's like you always have to just say the, like, biggest thing that people would recognize. But in Germany, like, what would they recognize? You're like, yeah, it's close-ish to Kansas City.
yeah, that probably, I don't know if they would recognize Omaha.
Probably not.
I'm not sure. So I feel like Kansas City probably would be the closest big city.
Yes. Okay, so being there 6 months so far, you've kind of been able to get into a bit of a routine, I'm guessing. Has living in Germany changed your work-life balance at all?
It has, because, so for example, on Sundays in Germany, you are not expected to do anything if you don't want to. And it's quiet hours all day. So you don't mow your lawn, you don't do outside work that's loud. If you have a really loud, like, washer or dryer, you're not even supposed to run that inside your house.
Yeah, they call that Ruhetag, right?
Yes, Ruhe. Yeah, that sounds right. I can't remember what Ruhe means though.
Probably quiet. I don't know. I
don't know. It's fine.
The Duolingo owl hates me now. I haven't been keeping up.
No, that's probably right. But yeah, that's helped. On Sundays, I'm actually able to relax, and I'm not stressing about Monday because I've also noticed that some people will start work later on Mondays even.
Oh, wow.
It's like part of the, I don't know if they are like still hungover from the weekend.
They're just easing into the week, okay? And I appreciate that.
And I love that. Like, it feels like there's not this huge need, like, oh, we got to get back in the work week and like fast-paced lifestyle. Everything is so much more relaxed. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I lived in California where it's, like a very fast-paced lifestyle, but that's how it's definitely changed for me. Like Mondays now, I might do like 2 or 3 hours of work and just save it for the rest of the week and just kind of let my weekend extend a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, I mostly work in the afternoons because the company I work for part-time is in the States. So it just is easier. Whenever people need to email me and stuff, it's easier if I have not already signed off. It's going really well. And on top of that, things here are so much more affordable. So even though I'm only working part-time, I feel like I have more money than I did when I worked full-time living in California.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really great. I've been able to just slow down, like, for the first time in a long time.
I can already tell that this is going to make me want to move to Germany.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
What are the ways that you've noticed that German culture has been rubbing off on you?
Well, I mean, everything I just said about quiet days and slow-paced lifestyle. There are like some little quirks that I was thinking of. If we're sitting in a pub and, there's a table next to us of a few men drinking beer, like Stammtisch or whatever. And, we haven't talked to them the whole time, but when they get up to leave, they say bye. Even though we weren't talking to them, like as they pass our table, they'll be like, "Tschüss." I think Mike said that he read somewhere that is sometimes a thing that people do here. Like, even if they don't know you or we're not talking, they might say bye on their way out. So we kind of started doing that.
Sounds super German.
Yeah. So I guess there's just like little colloquialisms. We live in the Rhineland-Pfalz area. There's a certain dialect in this area, and they call it Pelzisch. So it's like, and a lot of times in German, you'll get taught like to say ich bin, like with that hard sound. But here it's like very soft. It's more of like a sh. Or another thing is like, they'll say ayo, which I guess an example would be if I said, "Oh, it's really cold out." Ayo. Yeah. I don't really know what the direct translation is. You just know what it means when it's said.
Yeah.
So we have picked up a little bit on some of those things too.
Yeah, you talk about like going to the like cafes and pubs. Like, how have you been able to find friends?
At the cafes and pubs.
Okay.
Yeah, so the town that we live in, there's only like a few options. And one of the first times we went out, this really nice lady, she's like, "Oh, Americans." And I'm like, "Yeah, like why?" Kind of scared. And she, her brothers are American. So she was just super excited to meet us. And she works at an army base here. So she speaks really good English. And she just kind of took us under her wing and invited or introduced us to her friends. And then you also just see a lot of the same people out because it's a really small village that we live in.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that has helped. Because there are some bigger, I wouldn't really say big cities, but bigger areas around here, and you definitely wouldn't get that. And I think that there would be a lot more Americans, which is okay. But we figured if we're going to live in Germany, we're going to full send. We're going to do it,
Heck yeah. Just jump in.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there's so many things to love about where you're living at, but is there anything that you've been missing about the US?
I miss driving in the US because driving here is a monster.
Okay.
How do I explain it? The roads, not all of them, but a lot of them that connect these villages are super narrow. Some of them don't have like the middle line and they're curvy and twisty. I already kind of get anxiety when I'm driving. So whenever you're going around this curve and people that are used to it, they're driving fast and they're coming, it looks like they're going to hit you, but they're not. It's just a narrow road. I haven't been a big fan of that, but I'm getting better. I think that's going to take time. My car only arrived in November. I think it's going to just take me some time with that. Since we have access to the Air Force Base, I can get most of the foods and stuff. So I haven't really had a big problem with like missing American food. However, I miss like Runza and
yes.
what's the other one? I was just thinking, Arby's, like just fast food, American junk food.
Yeah.
Like those things that obviously we can't go to the BX and buy, like a Runza or an Arby's sandwich. So whenever I come home, I'm going to really, really have to go to all my favorite spots.
Yeah, for anybody listening in who doesn't know what a Runza is, it's just a regional fast food chain. So are you actually into the Runzas or are you more like burgers?
Runzas. Yeah, I like an original Runza with frings and a Diet Pepsi.
I was actually thinking about getting some Runza today.
Sounds amazing. Do it for me.
Okay. I can do that. Well, it's good that you're not really missing anything. I've heard of people like missing peanut butter when they go over to Europe. What else? Oh, even just like spices, like chili powder and stuff like that.
Yeah, whenever we first got here, we went on a wild goose chase for soy sauce. And I think it's just because we didn't know where to go. But we went to a store, they had some, but it was like $8 or €8. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that because we can find it on base. But we were 30 minutes away. So we went to like 3 stores and we finally found it. So now we know which store to go to when you want to find things like that. But that was a learning curve at first. And I think, yeah, chili powder or anything spicy because they don't really do spicy food here. Like paprika, which I guess is the word for pepper, but that's like their version of spicy and it's just not spicy.
So, has living in Germany provided any creative inspiration for you, or are you like starting any side projects or anything like that?
Yes, so I'm hoping to here soon start a blog that I'm probably only going to share with friends and family because first of all, I don't want to assume that people that aren't friends and family would want to be reading my blog, but just kind of as a way, like I know that a lot of people are curious, what's it like to shop for groceries there? What's it like to drive? Like, what are the people like? How are you learning the language? So I think that people would appreciate, and it would be a fun way for me to document my time here as well. Just a blog where I break down some of those things a little more in depth. And also share some of our travels as we start traveling more, funny experiences. Or whenever we were in Nuremberg, we took the wrong bus. So like little stories like that we find ourselves into shenanigans or whatever. I'm hoping to get that started soon. I am just having trouble with Wix right now. So it's at a standstill because I'm also reading a lot. And I always choose to do that at the end of the day versus doing something that feels a little more like work.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's going to be so cool though. I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah.
What was the snafu with the bus in Nuremberg?
We had been at an Irish pub
Uh-oh.
and we got on the wrong bus, and Mike was like, this is going the wrong direction. And it wasn't a big deal. We just had to get off at the next stop and then like kind of backtrack. It was just a funny experience because he's like, we are on the wrong bus right now. And I'm like, well, I don't know what we're going to do about it because we're moving. Like,
Yeah, we're just gonna see where this goes, and
yeah. Luckily, the bus and train systems in here are really easy to navigate, honestly. So it wasn't hard to correct ourselves. But
have you had any really awesome like beer garden experiences or anything like that?
okay, as far as beer gardens, not really yet because we got here in July, but we were so busy like moving and then kind of camping out in our house before our things arrived, waiting for Mike to buy a car, waiting for my car to arrive, and then by the time we were a little more settled, it was getting cold and rainy. So I think we're gonna find better options. Like I know that we will find better options, but so far we've only been to mostly indoor places. Um, there is a really cool restaurant that like overlooks a castle nearby, so I was able to go to that with a friend um, and eat schnitzel, of course. I'm just thinking there's another place that's like an open air bistro and it's outside and there's like a little lake, like a man-made lake, and then all the kids have like these rafts. They can like raft out to this basically a jungle gym that's like in the middle of the water and the water's like knee deep. But um that was also kind of cool. But it was getting cold even when we were there. So like we haven't really had the chance to do a lot of exploring beer gardens.
Yeah, when I had schnitzel there, it was like the size of a plate, and I was like, I need to eat all of this to prove a point.
I love schnitzel. I had never had it
Oh my
before.
gosh, so
And
good.
oh man, it's and the different sauces and gravies. Oh,
Yes.
yum. I haven't had dinner tonight, so I'm like, that sounds so good.
I need to make some too soon. What are your travel plans, and what else are you looking forward to when it comes to the rest of your time being in Germany?
I really am interested to see how my German will be by the time we leave because I feel like it's already gotten so much better in 6 months. So I want to keep that up for sure. I'm like, I don't know that I'll be fluent by the time that we leave. It'll just be interesting to see like how far I've come.
Totally.
And also, I think it's in March, we are hopefully going to Brussels, and that'll be our first out of Germany trip since we've been here. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I know there's a lot of great breweries. And my favorite beer of all time is Delirium Tremens. And we will hopefully go to the brewery where they make that.
That is so cool.
I'm super excited for that. But I have so many places I want to go, and I don't know that I'll get to all of them, but I would love to go to Dublin. I want to go to Paris and see the catacombs.
Ooh, yeah.
Like the Eiffel Tower and all that's cool, but I'm morbid, so I want to go to the catacombs.
I love that. I feel like, I mean, everybody knows about the Eiffel Tower.
Right. It's so touristy. Of course, whenever you're in Paris, you will have to see the Eiffel Tower, but
Right,
I
right.
want to go underground where there's bones. Um, and then I know Mike he has Nordic ancestry, so he would really love to go to Norway. So, we'll see if we can even hit like just a couple of those spots, then I'd say that's a success. But
Totally. Well, it's just going to be so much easier to travel while you're there, so you might as well just live it up and
yeah,
maximize
for
it.
sure.
Yeah. How has Mike been doing? How's his like drumming assignments?
He's good. He's assigned to like the rock band, but they haven't had a lot of gigs. He hasn't been like traveling and working a lot, but hopefully that'll change. And maybe also it's just because it's winter right now. And I feel like with the rock band, that's more of like maybe outside summertime gigs. He might be a little busier.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about what you've learned about yourself while living abroad?
It's kind of crazy because a lot of people will say they ended up drinking more when they moved to Germany. I've started drinking less. And I think it's just because it's just like different culturally. It's like enjoy the beer, sit back, relax. You don't have to be in a hurry. You don't have to chug. You don't have to worry about the next place you're going. So because of that, my head has just been like in a really clearer space. And, the lifestyle is so much slower that I've been able to like reflect so much more than I ever have. Actually have like fun hobbies like hiking and mushroom hunting. And I've been reading a lot more. So I'm just kind of learning things that I really enjoy doing. as much as I love California and I loved my friends there and stuff, it was just like there was always a social event to go to. You always had to be somewhere. And I didn't have that time to take for myself. Now we have like the relaxing vibes here. It's very cozy. I can curl up with a book and I'm like, I enjoy doing this. And I think I'm kind of a homebody now. Like, I don't want to go anywhere. What happened? Or last Saturday we had plans and they got canceled because the roads were a little slick. And I was like, yes. I'm like, who am I? I'm such a social person normally, but I'm just like, I just want to stay home with Mike and Max and just like stay in my PJs.
That sounds amazing, actually, especially with that
Yeah.
cloudy weather. And
It's perfect. Make some tea or coffee and it's just perfect.
well, that leads into our recurring ending segment. What's your current favorite thing right now?
Reading anything and everything. Right now I'm reading a memoir called A Piece of Cake by Cupcake Brown. It's pretty dark. I'm still waiting for when the story is going to get like a little bit happier. It's about a girl who had a really terrible hand dealt to her in life and kind of her struggle. I know things are going to take a turn, but yeah, I've really been loving reading. That's all I want to do with my free time lately.
That's awesome. I also love that you asked for people to send you books for your 30th birthday. So I'm sure you got like an
Yes.
amazing assortment of recommendations and books from
I
people.
did. And you sent me Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and I loved that book. I loved that book so much. And there's so many Nebraska references, and it's at the university. So like it made me feel at home. And thank you so much. That was a great book. I need to see what other books she has because I enjoyed it enough that I'm like, I'd read more books by her for sure.
Oh, yeah. She has a lot of other great ones. And she's coming out with a new one this year called Slow Dance. And I'm very excited for that. Keep an eye out because I'll definitely be getting a copy when that's available.
Yeah, let me know. I follow her on Instagram now, but just in case I miss it, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you are in your reading era, especially in the wintertime. For me, I mean, I've been trying to read more. I just picked up a short story collection by Sherman Alexie. I'm in my birdwatching era, and there's actually a board game about birdwatching.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's like the combination of like the most boring hobbies you can imagine, but it's so soothing. It's called Wingspan, and it seems like there's a lot of hype around it right now, but I totally understand that. It somehow just like really bridges the gaps of all different skill levels and, gamers. And the art is just beautiful. It's just like really, really fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. We love a good board game too. We got one too recently. I don't know if I'm saying this right. It's a Cherokee word. It's Nasi, and it's like a dice game kind of, but it's based on a role playing game called Coyote and Crow. That's made by Native American creators. But we're really enjoying this spin-off version, that just the little dice kind of game. It's a lot of fun. I need to make a mushroom board game, like a mushroom collecting board game.
Oh, there has to be something like that out there.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least like a Kickstarter project or something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Molly is amazing, and I appreciate her so much for sharing her stories. It can be really difficult to uproot your life and learn a new language, but she's over here making it look effortless. I cannot wait to read her blog updates. Also, I have a postscript from the current favorite segment. I found out the Sherman Alexie book was a signed copy. I got it from a used bookstore, and it's part of a huge stack of books on my end table right now, getting me through the winter. Send me your book recommendations by reaching out on the socials or emailing nerdlandia.podcast@gmail.com. Or let me know if you know of any mushroom-themed board games. I definitely need that in my life. Up next, exploring Lionheart Canyon with Kate. We discuss her weaving studio, creative community, and why the American Southwest inspires her so much. Tune in on March 6th for that conversation. Tschüss! Nerdlandia is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Case Buskirk. Theme song and ending credit music by Keith West. Additional music by Sascha Ende.
They'll say, ayo.